Today, we're going to unpack a crisis that feels like it's ripped straight from the headlines. We're going to look at how a single failed deal could spiral, pushing an entire region to the absolute brink of war. So let's get right into it.
Picture this. It's June 2025. And the headline isn't a possibility anymore. It's a reality. The Middle East is at war. For years, this was the nightmare scenario everyone tried to avoid. Well, now it's here. And make no mistake, this isn't some small skirmish. According to our fictional source material, it's direct and it's massive. Israel launched large-scale attacks on Iran. And look at the targets. Not just buildings, but the top military leaders and the top nuclear scientists. The very people behind the program. All the key players are involved, and the stakes couldn't be higher. History would end up calling this the 12-day war. But how on earth did things ignite so fast? To really get it, we've got to rewind the clock just a couple of months.
It all started with the huge diplomatic gamble, a last-ditch effort called the Deal That Never Was. It was supposed to be a 60-day countdown to peace, but as we'll see, it ended up being a countdown to war.
The speed of this collapse is just breathtaking. Look at the timeline. March 7th, a letter kicks things off. By April 12th, they're at the table, but with this super tight 60-day clock kicking. Then, boom, mid-May, Khamenei calls the U.S. proposal outrageous. Just 2 weeks after that, the IAEA finds a record amount of military-grade uranium. By June 12th, the UN's nuclear watchdog makes it official. Iran is in breach. And the very next day, the deadline's up and the strikes begin. It's a complete diplomatic breakdown, just playing out in slow motion.
So, why did it fail so badly? Well, this slide really gets to the heart of it. The two sides weren't just far apart, they were on different planets. The U.S. wanted a total dismantle of the entire program. No enrichment, period. But for Iran, the right to enrich uranium was a point of national pride, something they saw as non-negotiable. They called the U.S. demand a fantasy. There was just no bridge to gap that divide.
So, diplomacy is dead, the conflict starts. Now let's jump forward and look at what happened right after the war. Let's really assess the damage. And the attacks were incredibly precise. This wasn't a blind bombing campaign. We're talking about the main enrichment plant at Natanz. Gone. The super-fortified underground site at Fordo, hit hard. The Esfahan facility, which is crucial for the whole process, inoperable. They even took out the Iraq reactor to eliminate the plutonium route to a bomb. And maybe most importantly, they targeted the people. Over 10 of the country's leading nuclear scientists, eliminated.
If you want a number to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this destruction, here it is, 15,000. That's how many centrifuges, the machines that actually enrich the uranium, were reportedly destroyed. And that's just at the Natanz site alone. It's a staggering blow to their industrial capability.
Okay, so this brings us to a really important term, nuclear threshold state. Basically, before the war, Iran was seen as a country that could flip a switch and have enough material for a bomb in just a few weeks. The attacks changed that. They were no longer a threshold state. But, and this is the key point, you can destroy machines, but you can't destroy knowledge, the expertise, the blueprints, that all remains.
So, with its program in ruins, but the know-how still in their heads, what does Iran do next? The country finds itself at this huge strategic crossroads, and its next move could change everything for the region. According to the analysis in our source material, Iran has basically 4 options on the table. 1. Just give up the program entirely. That's seen as super unlikely. 2. Try to get a new deal, maybe to get some sanctions relief and buy themselves some time. 3. Rebuild, but do it slowly, trying to get back to that threshold status without triggering another war. Or, number 4, the most dangerous path of all, a covert breakout, a secret, underground dash to build a weapon.
Now, you might think the war would scare them off, right? But here's where the psychology gets really interesting. An INSS report suggests the exact opposite happened. A powerful idea started growing inside Iran. If we had the bomb, just like North Korea, this never would have happened to us. And that way of thinking becomes a massive motivator to rebuild, maybe even faster and more determined than before.
All right, let's pull back from the immediate crisis for a second and look at the bigger picture. Because a conflict like the one we've described for 2025 doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's been brewing for a long, long time.
You know, the bad blood here goes way back. You can trace it all the way to 1953 and the US-backed coup that sowed this deep, deep mistrust of the West. Then, of course, the 1979 Iranian Revolution turns the two countries into outright enemies. And more recently, you have the 2018 US pullout from the big nuclear deal, the JCPOA, which just cranked up the tension all over again. Each event is like another layer of fuel on the fire. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Catastrophes like this rarely happen because of one single bad move. The real danger is the slow buildup of miscalculations. A threat here, a sanction there, a broken promise. Each individual step might seem logical at the time, but when you layer them on top of each other, you create this escalatory spiral that becomes almost impossible to escape.
You know, a conflict like this sends shockwaves everywhere. It forces every country around the world to rethink its alliances, its defenses, and its whole strategy on nuclear weapons. The lessons learned from a war like this would without a doubt shape global security for decades.
Which really leaves us with this one last big idea to think about. It's one thing to analyze how a war could start, but the real challenge, the thing that actually matters, isn't about being a good fortune teller. It's about learning how to prevent it. It's about understanding all those tripwires and all that history so that a timeline like the one we just went through stays exactly where it belongs, as a cautionary tale.